This conference will now be recorded.
Trailer are available at the Lander County's Court's office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal charge. 1, approval of July 25th, 2024 consent agenda. 2, approval of April 25th, 2024 meeting minutes. 3, approval of May 23rd, 2024 meeting minutes. 4, approval of June 20th, 2024 meeting minutes. 5, approval of June 27th, 2024 meeting minutes. 6, approval of July 11th, 2024 meeting minutes. And 7, approval of payroll change request. Looks like we are set to approve 1, 2, and 3. So if there's a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move into 1.1 for discussion of possible action to approve, disapprove the payment of bills. We need to pull check 224587. If I can have a motion to approve the remainder.
I'll make a motion that we approve the remainder of the bills.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve check number 224587.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I abstain. It's made to my client. We'll move into 1.2 for discussion on possible action to approve, disapprove the resolution 2024-06 for the transfer of Lander County's 2024 annual allocation of the private activity bond cap in an amount not to exceed $376,956.61 to Nevada Rural Housing Authority for its single family ownership program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Sparks and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Sean Husser. Last name is spelled H-E-U-S-S-E-R. We appreciate your time today. I'm the Director of Finance for Nevada Rural Housing. We appreciate the partnership that we've had with Lander County for many years when it comes to the private activity bond cap and your willingness to provide that to us to be able to use. Since 2006, Lander County has provided $4.1 million in private activity bond cap. $12.7 million in mortgages have been provided to 81 home buyers in Lander County during that period of time. In addition, there's been about $20,000 in federal tax savings to home buyers through our mortgage credit certificate program, and about $489,000 in down payment assistance to home buyers since 2006. Nevada Rural Housing is committed to the rural parts of the state, and we strive to do our very best to help fund and finance affordable housing opportunities for all rural Nevadans. One thing that I would like to point out is a specific example of how this bond cap is being used is beginning this past Monday. We just opened for all of Nevada a bond opportunity for home buyers where we are offering a 6.17% interest rate. And in addition to that, it provides 4% down payment assistance for those who would qualify. That includes veterans and others who meet the other qualifications. So we hope to get the word out, make sure that all people in Lander County who are looking to purchase a home are aware of that. It is a first-time home buyer program, but we'd invite, if you know of anybody, to invite them to seek us out and find out if they qualify for this program, as it is a very good interest rate in this current market. We appreciate all that the Lander County has done when it comes to our partnerships, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? Okay. Any questions from our public? Okay, great. Well, I think it's a great program, and like you said, it has provided assistance and help throughout the years for Lander County citizens, and yeah, so great. So is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the resolution 2024-06 for the transfer of Lander County 2024 annual allocation of the privacy activity bond cap in an amount not to exceed $376,956.61 to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority for its single family home ownership program.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And am I correct? We do not need to read the resolution in anymore? Okay, great. So I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to 1.3 for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the county commissioners to request from the Nevada Board of Registration in dentistry to waive the requirements of NRS 631.300 to receive a restricted geographical license to practice dental hygiene in Lander County, a rural and dentally underserved county. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for meeting us and allowing us to be in this meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
For the record, my name is Dr. Keith Benson. Lynn Short. And so our goal is to do a small as well as Dr. Troy Ross, the Lander County Health Officer. And so our goal is to provide dental sealants, which is a polymer that goes over the chewing surface of a first molar usually. And what it does is it protects that tooth from cavities. With this program, we'd also apply topical fluoride as needed and do a screening and referral process. My understanding is that there was some concern about the topical fluoride. And
Yep,
so,
that was me.
yeah, we'd love to discuss that with you.
Okay. So, do we have Dr. Ross on the phone? Was he able to? I know he had some other engagements. Wasn't for sure if he'd be able to make it. Okay.
So I spoke to Dr. Ross, and in your community, it looks like you almost have the perfect level of fluoride in your water. And so by placing, what this is a topical fluoride that goes on the teeth. And so it really doesn't have that systemic sort of action that, I don't know, you might have had prescribed pills in the past, and this used to do that a lot if there wasn't fluoride in the community's water. But this, again, is more of a topical action and won't affect it systemically, because we do worry about fluorosis, things like that in communities that have too high of water fluoride. However, again, just by placing it on the teeth, it's just that local reaction there.
Okay. So a couple questions. Do we fluorinate our water? I didn't think we did. I know we fluorinated, but not fluoride. No fluoride. Okay. So my concern, just so the rest of the commission knows, is that I'm not necessarily against the program. What I am against is basically giving children fluoride, because if anybody that does a research on fluoride can see that it's toxic and it's poisonous. We've always been an informed consent county, where we basically believe in that you give the parents or whomever the both sides of the coin to where they can make an informed decision. And that's what I think should happen here. And Dr. Ross was in agreement with me in talking with him this morning, and he said he'd be willing to work with you guys to where we could make up some sort of informed consent, to where parents say, hey, these are some of the studies out on fluoride. Just know and make it the person's choice. I mean, to basically for me to approve this without the informed consent, I wouldn't be for it. But if we can have the informed consent, then it basically becomes that parent's or that person's right to basically decide for themselves, is this something they should do? I mean, just for myself, I've not used fluoride for several years, just because of my own research that I've done on it, my family as well. And knock on wood, I have pretty good dental history. I mean, I've never had problems with my teeth, but it's that's just how I feel about it. So I don't know if anybody have any questions or concerns about it.
Informed consent, I think, is how anything like that should go.
May I also add, I'm so sorry, we do actually ask for informed consent. So every school-age child in the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th grade will be sent home with a consent form in order to participate in the program itself. And so we don't do passive consent at all, and the state of Nevada does not allow that.
Okay, so
we do an active consent.
Okay.
We would be happy to include a consent for sealants and then fluoride, but I also want to be sure that we are looking at studies on topical fluoride versus systemic community water fluoridation. So they're totally different. And I do want to be sure that the information that we're providing is strictly and solely directed at topical fluoride, like toothpaste, and fluoride in toothpaste, and not community water fluoridation. I also did want to address for you as well that you asked about the fluoridation. All water sources have fluoride in there. So that's where you're getting the natural fluoridation. Here in Lander County, it isn't that you're adding fluoride to it to have that optimal level.
So I would think that so on the consent form side of things, I would be interested in seeing it, not necessarily, or even if we could get a sign off from our medical doctor of record, which is Dr. Ross, that he's sufficient with it. I would be fine with that, but I think before we approve it, or if we approve it contingent upon Dr. Ross saying that it's okay, what would be the best way to handle that, Bill?
May I also just interject? I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
We're actually asking for your allowing me for a license
Mhm.
or to practice dental hygiene. I could be practicing dental hygiene in a dental office with what we're asking for. It wasn't specifically contingent upon practicing in the school system. I just want to be sure that that was clear in what I had written.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. But
Okay.
we are the kind of last front allowing this. We have to approve it. And I've just spoken my concerns about it. And unless any of the other commissioners up here disagree with what I'm saying, I think that's what I would like to see before we move forward and approve it. And Dr. Ross said he would be more than willing to work with y'all to get it down. I mean, because he kind of knows the direction we've gone the last several years as far as informed consent, and that's very important to our community. So I know you say you have the consent form. I have not seen it. It's not part of my pack. I just want to make sure that we're very forthcoming to our citizens and our parents, and so that I feel that they have all the data to make a fair decision. So I'm not sure, Bill, back to you on that question. Is that something that we can approve contingent upon that, or should we just wait to hear from Dr. Ross and agendize it once we have it?
No, you can make it contingent on his approval.
Okay.
And
And
would
then,
that end the license as well? Because if it's not accepted by him, then we wouldn't be granted the license to practice in the school, correct?
Well, that's correct, because it's contingent.
yes. Okay. So if everybody's fine with that, that's the direction we'll move. So maybe Bert, you can get with Dr. Ross and just let him know kind of the direction we went on it, and then we'll just go from there.
We want a motion today.
Do we need a motion, Bill, or just? defer?
Yeah,
Make the
since we're
motion
making it
contingent?
contingent, it would
Okay.
be best to do that.
Okay, so I'll hear a motion.
I'll motion to approve the county commissioner's request from the Nevada Board of Registration and Dentistry contingent upon the approval from Dr. Ross to waive the requirements of NRS 631.300 to receive a restricted geographical license to practice dental hygiene in Lander County, a rural and dentally underserved county. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, that's fine.
We have a motion,
I'll second it.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys. So we'll move into 1.4 for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the reappointment of one individual to serve on the Public Lands Use Advisory Commission Board, which currently has 2 openings. New terms are from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2026, and our applicant is Amy Nelson. So if there's no questions, I'll hear a motion.
A motion to approve the reappointment of one individual to serve on the Public Lands Use Advisory Commission, which currently has 2 openings. The new term will be from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2026, and a motion to approve Amy Nelson.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 1.5 for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the reappointment of one individual to serve on the Lander County Planning Commission, which currently has 3 openings. New terms are from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2028, and our applicant is Monty Price. So if there's no questions, I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Bonnie Price on the Lander County Planning Commission, which currently has 3 openings. New terms from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2028.
Okay, we have a motion
Second it.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 1.6 for discussion and possible action or direction on county priorities for bipartisan infrastructure law bill. Funds assigned to Battle Mountain Airport, including funding future AIP projects, saving funds to pursue a county hangar as previously discussed, or other projects identified on the current airport capital improvement plan. Good morning.
Good morning, David Meyer with JEB for the record. So I was here in November. We talked about the BIL funds. I included the same backup, but I won't read through all of it. The upshot was that as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed, there was additional funding put forward to airports that receive FAA funds, Battle Mountain and Austin in particular for Lander County. Each airport gets about $110,000 a year over the course of 5 years from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26. When this money first came out, the conversation was this was kind of a one-time shot in the arm for airports to pursue their priorities instead of just the FAA's priorities. So there wouldn't be any priority priority review or scoring on the projects if the funding was there. The other big thing about this was there wasn't the same tie-ups with revenue generating projects that there are with traditional AIP funds. So when the money came out, everyone thought, perfect, let's put this towards revenue generation. Let's, make this money go farther. And so our early conversations in Battle Mountain were, we have these nice hangar facilities, but they only house small aircraft, single engine kind of thing. And the airport could really benefit from having a larger hangar, probably 80 by 70 for the next size up, twin engines, that kind of thing. So we started talking about those conversations probably about a year and a half ago. We were, just kind of writing some numbers down. We were looking at of the $440,000 that we could save up for Battle Mountain, that would take a good chunk out of a new hangar. It wouldn't get us to the whole 93.75, but it would probably get us to 65–70%, which is again a good chunk of money. Since then, and we talked about back in November, the market's only gone up. What used to be maybe $75–80 a square foot for a hangar building is closer to about $125 a square foot. I spoke with Mike Shepard, who owns Michael Clay over in Winnemucca. They did the hangars in Battle Mountain back in 2017, and he said the outlook for prices coming down is not great. So again, what seemed like a good idea for maybe a $700,000 hangar is looking a little tighter for $1 million hangar. That $440,000 just isn't taking the chunk out that we thought it would. The other thing that's come up since then is, the idea was this money is separate from AIP. It doesn't impact the airport's AIP. It's for the airport to chase airport priorities. When we were talking with the FAA about our Pappies and Rios project at Battle Mountain, which we'll discuss further in the next item, they had a potential funding shortfall and came to the county and said, if you want to make this project whole, you're going to have to use your bill money. We can't tell you to use your bill money. It's your money. We can't tell you what to do with it, but we can tell you we have a funding shortfall on the AIP side. And that's the first kind of real finger we felt, or hand we felt on this bill funding from the FAA, is that they are short on AIP funds across the nation, and airports are going to have to decide whether they want to keep their bill funds for their projects or whether they're going to make those available to help support their AIP projects if funding shortfalls do arise. So the nice thing is, in the time between those initial conversations and now, the FAA was actually able to find the remainder of the money to make our other project, our AIP project at the airport whole. So I guess there's a lesson in that about dragging your feet a little bit, giving them a little more time to check their couch cushions. But the lesson is still there that what once was this program to make this money available for whatever, the sponsors thought they needed it for within the confines of the rules of the grant, is now becoming a little less untouchable. So after conversations with Bert, with Donnie, the airport board in Austin, we really thought it was time to bring this to the commission and just say, what the commission's feeling is on this money. And in particular, our initial idea to hold this money for a hangar, and whether that really fit the interests of the commission and the county at this point. So with that, I'll kind of open it up to your feelings.
Okay, do you guys have any questions? I mean, I wouldn't really know. I mean, is there a big need for the hangar? I mean, if there is, then I would say, you know, we'd look at that, but if not, I don't see why we couldn't just put it towards our AIP projects, right? I don't know. Anybody have anything to input or interject or?
Wasn't that hangar for the medical airplanes?
That was going to be one potential use. There was also potential use for, BLM seat planes that they wanted to store over the winter or something, so they didn't have to bring it out. You know, it would be county owned. It would be public use because it would have public funds tied to it. So we wouldn't build it for any one specific reason, but that would be one of the major potential users is a medical, someone who wanted to fly in, because they do typically fly in those larger twin engine GA aircraft because they're a lot faster. So that was one thing that had been discussed as a possibility, but I don't know that there was anyone on the line at the time that we thought this up, so, or we considered this alternative.
So do we generate revenue from that, or we just let them park in there for free?
No, it would generate revenue. It's the same that the other county hangars out there have a monthly.
And
Lease
so
rate.
what would be the long-term payback on it?
To be honest,
Not very good.
hangars don't pencil super well.
Okay.
There's a reason that people park their RVs and their boats in hangars in airports all across America, because they're cheaper to rent than storage units.
Wow.
So the market just won't budge. And I can't tell you why. I'm not an economist, but it doesn't budge.
Bert, I mean, you being a pilot and kind of being savvy with that, I mean, is there anything that we should be aware of or an angle we should be looking at that we're not necessarily looking at, or?
Well, we always bat for hangars. But I think the advantage to the county to putting in a big hangar would be for medical. I know that the doctors that come in here, that's one of their big things. And Commissioner Chop could probably speak to some of it from sitting on the hospital board, that they have trouble getting doctors in. A lot of these doctors now come in for, short stints of time, and they like to fly into a place, land, spend their week, fly out. So that was the push when we initially started looking at a county hangar out there that would be big enough to house some of these planes that these doctors fly. And that was the thought behind it, is to assist our hospital. Outside of that, they're a losing cause on all fronts. There's really,
They take maintenance. There is no ROI. It's a negative ROI. I mean, it's an indirect, it's an investment to generate indirect revenue and activity as much as it is. And when Bert and I talked about this back in November, I told him, look, I loved this idea at $750,000, but I can't say I love this idea at $1 million. And now add on to the fact that we limit our flexibility on future AIP projects in the event of FAA shortfalls. If we do allocate this money, it's not the beauty that it was in 2022 when they rolled it out.
Well, I mean, I know we're a presidential election year, and I think I think depending on which way it goes, I think we will see some changes. I mean, I know that we have the opinion of a contractor saying he doesn't see anything changing. My opinion is that if the election goes the correct way, I think we'll see a lot change in this country. So I think that's probably something we need to be looking at and aware too, if we make a decision today, is that decision that we make today come 2025, 2026 could, I mean, the economy could look completely different than what it looks currently. So
one thing we did talk about with the projection, and again, I want to state I'm not an economist. I've been wrong time and time again about what the next 3-year outlook looks like, but we talked about what it looks like when the interest rates finally decrease, like they've been talking about for what feels like 2 years now, and that could stimulate some private and residential growth in these steel buildings that could impact availability, could, increase prices with the increased demand. But again, I've been wrong before
Well,
about.
yeah, let me ask you this. So let's say we make the decision to basically save our funds to pursue the hangar. Will we have time later to be able to change our decision on how we want to do that?
So at this point, what's really driving us is the 4-year period of performance on the grants that are allocated or the funds that are allocated. And in particular, the fiscal year 2022 grants, those expire September 30th of 2025. So if we're looking, our plan was initially to use the first year to do the design and the last 4 years to do the construction. And so we had originally talked about even doing the design this year, and we had delayed that just to see what would happen over the next year. But September is probably our drop dead decision date, because by then we need to be moving on the environmental in order to get the grant in place for the design, or we could lose the 2022 grant funds.
If we're utilizing that hangar mostly, like Bert has said, for the doctors, then I would imagine if it was win-win for us and the doctors, the hospital could step forward and said, hey, this would be beneficial to us with our doctors. I hate to put that amount of money out to something that it's only going to be utilized a small amount when it can be justified across the board for something much better than here and there a doctor flying in. That I would not want to bet on. And like you said, even as an economist, or if that's what if they're losing thing to begin with, I would just, even with the construction, whether you're losing $1 million or you're losing $700,000, you're still losing the money if they're not going to pay back and they're not going to justify themselves. And that's the way I look at it.
And I can't speak to the operational ins and outs of hangar rentals and hangar leases. But in order to keep the hangar flexible, going on a week by week or day by day basis, that would increase your exposure to those times when that hangar is empty. So, but I do know for now our hangars, I believe, are all leased out, all 4 units. So there's definitely demand.
Well, I think not even medical. I think there's probably activity with our industries around here, right?
Oh, yeah.
People flying in. And so I think being a remote rural area, I think these services that allow people to come and go and just make it easier for them, I think that's always a safe hedge. Because if we don't have it, I mean, that could always be a justification. Yeah, that's why we don't get a doctor. Or that's why we can't do this. So I don't know. I think I tend to believe that maybe we just move ahead as we've intended and just see where the presidential election falls. That's kind of my opinion on it. But
there's FAN is the Elko Flight Alliance of Northern Nevada is what FAN stands for. It's the Flight Alliance of Northern Nevada. They'll be presenting to this commission, I think, at the next board meeting. They put in an agenda request. And they're going to highlight some of the importance of an airfield to industry. And there's a whole bunch of things that, people don't think of how, like these CEOs, they don't get in vehicles and travel very far. They fly into where they want to be and they build where they can fly in and out of. They're into them comforts and they live a different life than we live. So there are some of them things that we need to consider if we want to grow. Get any level of a business coming in here. Any of the big CEOs, they either fly in and get out of their airplane and walk over to where they want to go pretty much, or they don't go. That's where they're going to invest their money, is where they can land and jump in a taxi or jump in a supplied car from the airport, drive over to their, multi-million-dollar investment, look it over, get back and go. So some of them things need to be considered when we move. These things take years to get put in place. And, it would be kind of a disservice to David if I didn't say some of that because he's put a lot of hard work into this. I'm a tightwad, so when I see this, I'm like, man, that just doesn't, you don't get your money back. But then when you see the other side of that, it's like economic development. It starts driving them things off of what your airfield is. Then we can drive, crosswind runways. These things drive a whole bunch of other things that slowly build off of each other. David could probably add on to a lot of what I just said there, but it's something to consider when we put them decisions out.
So basically what you're saying is just taking the money that we have saved for that and put it towards our more, our AIP projects, because that could later fuel. I mean, is that what you're saying? Just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that I think having a nice facility where these planes fly in and they can land and the CEOs can park their plane somewhere that's out of the weather, they're more likely to want to come and be here
Gotcha.
than if they got to tie down and try to figure out where they're going to be. I mean, they're flying big enough planes, they don't really tie down, but they, David, maybe you can add on to what I'm.
Well, and I would say the other thing that, that would separate those planes is it would separate them from firefighting activities, especially as they come in the summer. I mean, I talked with the folks at the airport yesterday. They said you had 2 MD-87s in there fighting the Whiskey Canyon fires. So if you've got a multi-million-dollar jet and you're being told to park on the apron around a bunch of seaplanes that are covered in dust and fire retardant and stuff, it is off-putting. So you're right. I mean, we went through this process a few years ago with the state of Nevada doing the state aviation plan. And the focus of that plan was to say, when you're looking at your airport as a source of transportation, as a hub that connects your community, especially in a place like Nevada, where communities are spread, that you can't just look at the dollars and cents you collect. They actually have economists, again, I'm not one, who can look at the indirect benefits, economic benefits of these investments into your airports. And I think that's what Bert's getting to, is the dollars and cents won't pan out. If this thing is $1 million and we have 440,000 of the FAA, you can do the math, and that tells you that's, almost $600,000 of county funds to get this going. But that $440,000 isn't nothing.
Yeah.
And the reality is I really don't foresee a time within my career where we're going to get another chance at $440,000 to put towards a hangar project without paying the price for it, which is, not getting discretionary AIP funds for 3 years. And
so we only have 4 hangars out here at the Battle Mountain Airport, or are there any private ones? Like out in Austin, everybody's is private and they just lease the land.
Yeah, so there's 2 private, and then I believe Rick has one that's kind of a little bit longer that he rents out there. But
there's
there
a
are
set
a
of
couple private
shade hangars. I believe there's 6 spots. There's Rick has a T hanger set that I think has 3 or 4, and then there's one big box hanger that's also.
So there's more than just 4 hangars
Right.
sitting out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What do you guys want to do? I'll hear a motion.
I believe in the future of economic development that we should carry through with it, because down the line it could be a real asset. So I motion that we carry on with the larger airport hangar.
Okay. I'll second it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. There we have it. So now we're moving to 1.7 for information only. Update from David Meyer, project manager with JUB Engineers, regarding current projects at the Austin Airport and Battle Mountain Airport.
David Meyer, JUB again. Sorry, you're stuck with me on 2. I'll make this one a little quicker. So we'll start in Austin. The big news down there is our apron project is complete. We bid that project back in June. It's the original apron in the adjoining taxiway B. it's the worst pavements out there on the airport. 4 to 6 inch cracks that are growing jungles out of them. So we bid that project back in June with the FAA's direction in seeking additional funding that came out in a notice of funding opportunity that had no funds tied to it, which I wasn't really excited about. So the thing is, we got really good bids, lower than the engineer's estimate. I don't get to say that very often these days, it feels like. So the low bid was Qualcomm Contractors, who's done a ton of work around here, and they work really closely with Honeywell. So we just kept in contact with them, and the FAA said we just don't have money in fiscal year 23, but we'll have it in 2024. So after conversations and keeping in touch and talking with our engineer, we reached out to Qualcomm and we said, it's February of 24. If you guys are going to hold your prices, then we'll move forward. If not, we need to know so we can rebid it in time. And they agreed to hold their prices, which was amazing, and they held them for 9 months. I'm sure the dollars and cents would say that wasn't the best economic decision for them, but I think that shows the level of appreciation they have for their partnership with the county. So we got that project under contract. They said the thing we would really like is if we could move forward on the construction before the grants come in, because grants are always late, and especially this year, they're very late with the FAA authorization. So we had confirmation that the funding would be available. So we put together a summary of funding and showed that, yeah, this project can be constructed with funds that you are allowed to spend ahead of the grant. So we just got our one of our 2 grants, our BIL grant, actually last week. Bert and Bill turned that thing around immediately, which is great. So that should be in place next week. We'll work with Lakin on doing a drawdown there. And then our AIP grant should be any day. So the work's done. It's immaculate. I'm really happy with the work that they did. The Qualcomm and Honeywell, they take care of everything. The airport looks better than it did before we started outside of the apron area. So they left it in a really nice condition. So, and of course we had a lot of help from Rick Harden on that. He's a great resource down there in Austin. So him and Donnie were big helps for me. So that project's just awaiting final pavement marking. We're looking at probably September to get the final coat of paint on there, and we'll close her out and get her done. So that really all came together. There were a couple touch and go moments where the FAA is like, if your contractor pulls your bid, you're just not going to get this project this year. So Bert and I both did some legwork on that to keep that thing going, but I'm really glad it worked out how it did. So that's our AIP project down there. We're also working on a special approach into runway 19. We've been working on that since 2014 when we were working on the master plan. That is in final design with the FAA. The purpose of that approach is to help support medevac and firefighting in bad conditions. We originally pursued a public approach, and NAS Fallon had some concerns about their ability to monitor their MOA, which is their military operations area that sits above the airport. So I'm going to reach out next week to NAS Fallon. This is mostly a warning to Bert, and let them know that the approach is about to hit comment stage, and we would love to reinvigorate our conversations with them about setting up a memorandum of understanding for who that approach will go out to. So I'm cautiously optimistic that that will work out. So that'll be a huge thing. There was a conversation about doing a night evaluation. I think for now we're going to wait to get the approach in place. We already have a lot of balls in the air right now. So it'd be good to get some of this settled, and more to come with Bert on that. So that's all I have for Austin, unless I'm missing anything.
Where are we at on the well?
That's a Donnie question or a Bert question. That's Day Engineering who's working on the well. So that's Marty.
Yeah, I'll dig into that a little further.
Okay.
So last update was progress is being made, but that was April. So,
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting because we haven't had quorum.
yeah.
So I want to make sure that we publicly thank David for all of his hard work, because he runs that airport, all of our grant programming. He doesn't let us miss anything. He's like a crazy ex-girlfriend that will keep calling you. But it is appreciated because it brings us a lot of money and makes our airports really good. So thank you, David. And the relationship that we have between David, the county, and the contractors, they're willing to even eat some of their profits to make the county look better and help us out by holding some of these prices. You don't see that anywhere else in the industry. So I want to thank Qualcomm and Honeywell Construction, because them guys literally eat profits full time, and I believe at times come up with losses for things like this. I mean, you can imagine what their bids were, and then a year later have to come back and hold them bids with the way the market's growing right now. So I want to thank them guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and of course, Bert always undersells his own role in all this, but Bert and Carly and Lakin they do the work. I just tell them to do the work. So I'm not even doing that much. They're all the heroes here. So, otherwise we'll move to Battle Mountain, which is this guy here. So we're moving forward with our happies, which are our approach lights, our reels, which are the flashing lights at the end of the runway, and our beacon project. I've been in contact with Mesquite Electric, who is the apparent low bid. We're still looking at probably mid-October to start construction on that. We want to get through the fire season, especially if they're going to be flying MD-87s out of there. We don't really want to be shutting down the runway during that. So we are still waiting on the grants. I am being the crazy ex-girlfriend to the FAA right now, reminding them that their 120 days is a two-way street, and they better get rolling. So again, originally they had said they had funding for the PAPIs and the reels, but we're going to be short on funding for the beacon and tower, and they said I needed to make a decision, and I said that's a commission decision. And in the 4 weeks that passed between that conversation and now, they said, just kidding, we found the money. So I'm not sure they should have done that with me. I think that's probably a bad lesson learned, but I'll take it. So we're looking good on that. We're also working with the FAA on the flight inspection, which they have to do on the PAPIs once they're set, to make sure that they're set correctly. So I've been pestering Lakin and Bert and Carly about that as well, and that process is moving along well. So we're on schedule there. And again, I haven't had any opportunity. I haven't been able to get a hold of the Cookhouse Museum about that beacon tower. We've talked at length about that. And every time I take that exit that takes you onto Broyles Ranch Road, I think about how bad of an idea it is to put a climbable tower right there in front of you as you leave the interstate. So I think we made the right decision on that one. So that's all I have on the project updates.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David?
Thank you.
Public have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Yep, thank you, David. Yep. Okay, we'll move into our correspondence, reports, and future agenda items. Anybody have anything on this?
Had something, I just lost it. We need to address the sidewalk right up in front of the courthouse. I don't know if you noticed that. Oh, you weren't there, but we are now at a major V right out in front of the courthouse, and we've been lucky that somebody hasn't tripped over that.
I seen that 2 weeks ago, and I believe Donnie's already working on that.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just, I don't know if we can come back on the contractors on that or what, but that was all brand new sidewalk that was put in 2 years ago. And that's like the third place that it's actually done that. It just like shoves together and raises up. Down by the Mountain Motel, it was almost this high before they actually did something about it.
Okay.
And, I remember what it was. Now that we're almost done with this lot line adjustment and all this stuff, what are we looking at for paving in Austin? Our streets are horrible.
We can make that an item.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on reports or future agenda items?
Yeah, so while I'm sitting here, we got the approval from UP to start our survey for the connecting of our spur out here.
Nice.
So we will start the survey this coming, we have 3 days to get it done. Be out there and get that survey going, and then you guys will probably be hearing from us on expenditure of some funds to start getting some track laid out to a rail park.
Nice.
Nice.
Great. Okay, anything more? Okay, we'll move into public comment for non-agendized items only. Is there public comment?
I just want the commission to know that, Donnie and Bert have been instrumental in supplying us with resources on these fires. Made a big difference in getting put out in a hurry. So I'd like to thank Bert and Donnie personally. And it seems like every time they get the call, it's 7, 8 o'clock at night. So they gotta call somebody out to run the trucks, but they've been there and it's made a big difference in keeping our fires down.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron, for
Just so you guys know, they've done an exceptional job.
awesome. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, I'll hear a motion.
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.